And welcome back to Crayon Box Politics Live. I'm your host, Carl Abel, and founder of Crayon Box Politics. At Crayon Box Politics, we believe that government works best when the public understands it. Um, and our goal is to make it as simple and clear and accessible and easy for people to engage with when it comes to government information. Each week, we take a look at the events, policies, and decisions shaping our country and the world. Sometimes that means breaking down the news of the day. Sometimes it means digging into how government actually works. And sometimes it means bringing in voices and perspectives that you might not hear anywhere else. The focus is simple: facts, context, and thoughtful conversation. So whether you're joining live or catching the replay later, I'm glad you're here. So let's get started. All right. So again, running solo this week, and probably going to be running solo for the foreseeable future, just due to scheduling conflicts with my co-host. So working through that, and we'll make things happen. But such is the nature of being a small time content creator. Uh, so things I want to talk about today, I want to kind of cover a few things that have happened over the past week. I want to discuss another engagement that I've had with individuals on the motivated social media, and then kind of dive into some updates as far as what is going on with Crayon Box Politics. Um, so, if you wouldn't mind, and if you're watching this in the recorded fashion, or if you're watching us on TikTok, um, do me a favor, and please go through um, and hit that follow button. If you're on TikTok, hit follow. Um, Looks like it took me forever to get TikTok up and running because there's a few extra steps that I have to do. But if you're on TikTok and you're just joining us, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss an event. If you're on YouTube, hit subscribe and then hit the the little um, bell button so that you'll get notified when we do go live and when we post things. So, a few things from this week, and it feels like every week is a year of absolute chaos, because things just continuously happen. And here's what I spent my last week doing, and that is watching the Senate floor. I started watching the Senate floor well back in last week, the week prior, and focused on that, and then moved into this week as well. The Senate is continuing to do the process of debating the Save Act on the floor of the Senate. But what really struck out to me is the fact that there is a God, how do I put it? Um, there is a an effort by Democrats to get the TSA funded, and they're doing that by trying to push partial funding bills for the Department of Homeland Security. And every time that they've done this, which is now a total of 6 times in the past week, they've brought this to the floor under what's called a unanimous consent. And that unanimous consent has required that you get obviously unanimous consent um, from all members of the Senate in order to bring it to the floor. Problem is that Republicans refuse to give them unanimous consent. And so, as a result, what is going on is that the efforts by Democrats to fund the TSA have been largely, um, how do I put it, have been blockaded by the Republicans. And so, what's going on is you'll see a lot of this propaganda coming out that talks to whether or not Republicans are to blame for the DHS shutdown, or if Democrats are to blame for the DHS shutdown. And I guess what we have to examine is whether or not you agree with the Democrats or whether or not you agree with the Republicans. On the Democrat side, there is a stance that you know. Um, Long story short, there's a stance that DHS shouldn't be funded in its entirety until there is some type of effort to rein in the agents that are part of Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Customs and Border Patrol. Um, whereas Republicans want it funded in its entirety. So depending on where you fall out, right? Now, I did get into a conversation with a couple folks, and the engagement was on a White House staffer's post that the long exorbitant 3-hour wait lines to get into the TSA or to get through TSA checkpoints at the airport is the fault of the Democrats. When in reality, I posted in response to this post from the White House staffer that their take was slightly off because Democrats had made efforts. And let me tell you, as soon as I made that statement, as soon as I said it, that Democrats are trying to fund the TSA, I have been called a liar. I've been told that I'm oblivious, that I have Trump derangement syndrome, that I don't know what I'm talking about, that I have no facts whatsoever. And it gets down to the problem of media literacy. And I say media literacy because what is happening in our society right now is people are actively engaging with social media posts. People are actively listening to um, news media sources that are providing them the information that they want within a an echo chamber of sorts. So their biases get confirmed, and that creates a problem wherein the American people just really don't know what's going on. They only know what they feel like is going on, and so I wanted to bring that up because it's important to note that going to CNN or Fox News or One American News or Midas Touch News, what you're going to get is a very biased perspective about what is actually going on in the government. In fact, you come here, you're going to get a very biased perspective about what is going on in the government because I try not to be biased, but at the same time I know and I understand that I have bias. I know and I understand that I have lines that I have drawn. I have a position on human rights that I do not back down from. I make sure that I make sure that I stick to my morals and my values when I talk about what is going on in our government. And so, no matter what, CNN, Fox News, Midas Touch News, Crayon Box Politics Weekly, you're going to get that bias that's going to come into your realm, right? And a lot of times, what will happen is people are going to stick around because of that bias, because it confirms what they believe, because it allows them to feel like they're not the only ones thinking that the way that they're thinking. Um, and so, what I'd say is that it's important that we don't just rely on the news. We don't rely on social media. We don't rely on the alternative media sources like Cranbox Politics or Midas Touch News. And what we do instead is we focus on um, the facts and we focus on the sources, right? Um, Anyone and everyone can watch what is going on the Senate floor every single day when the Senate is in session. Anyone and everyone can go back and watch previous floor occurrences through C-SPAN, which is an unedited version, it's raw video of what has occurred. Same thing for the House. Anyone and everyone can watch what is going on the House floor. Anyone and everyone can go to YouTube to the clerk of the House's YouTube page, and they can watch the unedited, recorded events that have happened on the House floor. So those are there. That's the raw information, right? If you really want to know what is going on, that's the place to go. Now, if you don't have time to watch, there's the congressional record, which can be extremely long. I've known it to get up to about 400 pages, right? And that's every day. And the reason that it is so long is because it is literally the entire transcript of everything that was said in Congress, on the House floor, on the Senate floor. It is every bill that it was introduced in the House and in the Senate. It is every vote that has been recorded, both voice and roll call. It has everything to do with that. It even demonstrates or shows the the record for all of the committee hearings that have occurred for that given day. Now, if you don't have time to read through that gigantic book, which most of us, I'll be honest, most of us don't have the time to do. Um, and so they do provide you with the added ability to observe and watch, um, or excuse me, observe and read something called the Daily Digest, right? And so what the Daily Digest does is it takes that 5, 6, 700 page um, record and it condenses it down to 2, maybe 3 pages. And it's an abbreviated record of everything that has occurred in Congress. And I mention these things not because I want you to stop watching Crayon Box Politics live, right? I don't want you to stop hearing what I have to say. But what I want you to do is be informed. And what I want you to do is have the raw information so that you can make decisions on your own. Because I don't feel that I'm someone that should tell you how to think. I don't think that anyone should tell anyone else how to think. I can tell you how I feel. I can tell you how I believe and what the things that I think. But at the end of the day, all I have for you is my thoughts and feelings and my personal biases. So, with that being said, going to open the floor during these live sessions, and I really do. I want you to participate in these conversations. If you are able to jump on the live, I want you to jump in here, and I want you to engage with me. Let's have debates. Let's have conversations about what is going on in government. And here's the caveat. The caveat is what I need from you, the viewer, the person who is on the other end of this. I need you to come to me with facts. I need you to come to me with the information that allows you to make the decisions that you're making or the judgment calls that you're making. Because what that does is allows both of us to have a conversation where we can actually find middle ground. If I come to the table with a fact-based understanding of where the country is going or what has occurred, and you come to the table with feelings and emotions, what we'll end up with is a debate that goes nowhere and goes round and round in circles and has no substantial meat and potatoes to it. So, when it comes to that type of conversation, that's what I want to hear from you guys, my audience. I want you to participate. I don't want you to be passive, because if there's anything that is truly important when it comes to Crayon Box Politics, one of our core values, right? We talk about staying informed, staying engaged, and always coloring outside the lines. Well, guess what? Always coloring outside the lines means actually going to the sources of the facts. Staying engaged means not just talking to me, but going to your local government meetings, going to your town halls, going to your economic development meetings, getting involved with your town and your local government. And staying informed means not just hearing what one side or the other side is telling you, but actually going through and identifying the facts so that you can formulate your own opinions and your own belief systems. When that happens, conversation will occur. And when conversation occurs, we have a way of coming together. We have a way of joining one another. And I also, I like to talk, but if I can get someone here with me to talk with me, that'd be even great, even better, right? If we can get like a rotating process of people that just, if you want to just talk about what's going on, I'm all about it. Come on the show. and join in with me, and let's talk about what's going on. So that's Congress, right? Congress has been actively engaged, and Congress has been doing their damnedest to um, not do anything. Um, and what I'll say is that the reason that the House has brought the SAVE Act to bear, the reason that the SAVE Act, excuse me, not the House, the Senate has brought the SAVE Act to bear, the reason that the SAVE Act is on the floor being debated is because Republicans want to engage on the SAVE Act. They're saying, hey, listen, Democrats, if you're going to filibuster the SAVE Act, we'll do it for you. And what they're doing is they're bringing it to the floor and they're saying, we're going to keep talking about this until we vote to pass it. And there will be no movement, there will be no motion, there will be no nothing until we decide that this is passed. And in order to pass it, you got to get through the cloture. And for anyone listening who doesn't know what a cloture vote means, it just means that they are closing the debate and moving into the final phase of whether or not they want to pass it. Well, in order to close the debate, you need 60 votes, right? Now, you can bring a privilege motion to the floor of the Senate, and that only requires a simple majority of 51. But in the Senate, in order to pass legislation and to close on debate, you do have to have a 60 vote threshold, which is approximately 3/5 majority. And every time that happens, it doesn't occur. There's also unanimous consents. Unanimous consents require everyone to agree to the motion, and those passages, especially these days, are rare. Now we have seen over uh, the past week, and beyond that, with regards to the way that the Republicans are gumming up the system on the discussion um, about the Save America Act. We have seen Democrats bring to the floor unanimous consent motions. And when those unanimous consent motions get brought to the floor, they're brought to the floor as, hey, listen, like, we understand that we're talking about this, but we really want to vote on this and get this passed. And 6 times Democrats brought unanimous consent motions to the floor in order to fund the TSA. And every single time, a member of the Republican Party has gotten up and objected to that motion. Every single time. Their only counter over the past week was to continuously bring up a full funding for the entire Department of Homeland Security. There was an effort by one Republican to say, hey, listen, like, let's go ahead and fund them for the next 2 weeks so that we have time to talk about this. Or let's fund them for the next month so we have time to talk about this. And both of those are, I mean, they're fair, right? I'll give it to you. But at the same time, saying, hey, let's talk about this, let's give ourselves time to talk about this, usually implies that you're going to talk about it, right? And if you go all the way back to October of last year, when the government was shut down in its entirety, the Republicans of the House actually took off and left DC for the entire month because they didn't want to be stuck with any type of bill that might come out of the Senate. They didn't want to have to vote on it. So they were pushing hard to get a full funding bill. And so what Democrats have learned is that they could agree to a 2-week period where the debate continues to occur. But then they're back in the same situation that they are in currently, where they get shut down again. And it gets shut down because the Republicans do not want to have a good faith conversation, period. Republicans do not want to have a come to Jesus moment where they're like, you know what? Let's go ahead and agree to some of these things that the Democrats are requiring, right? And it's not like it's outrageous things that Democrats are asking for. Okay, Democrats are not asking for a lot of stuff from the administration when it comes to ICE. What they're asking for is that ICE follows the fucking law, period. Right? What they're asking for is that ICE agents, when they are engaging with the public, have a body cam on their body in order to ensure that they are capturing those engagements, right? Because every time we've seen any type of engagement that has occurred between an American citizen and a member of the of ICE or even CBP for that matter, um, has been contentious. And every single time, the American citizens have had the wherewithal to pull their phones out and start recording. And it is important for us to have those recordings because when when the day comes and the reckoning is to be had, those recordings are going to be evidence. Those recordings are going to be what we use to say, hey, listen, ICE overstepped. ICE did the wrong thing. ICE needs to be abolished, and this is why. Um, so there's nothing wrong with what the Democrats are asking for. And if you disagree with me, please throw it in the comments. If you're on TikTok, throw it in the comments. I'm watching everything. I'm watching the Facebook. I'm watching the TikToks. I'm watching the YouTube. And I'm here to engage with you. So please don't be a passive viewer. Please jump in and say hello and give me your input if you don't agree with me. If you do agree with me, throw that in there too, so that we can talk about this. Now, one major turn of events that happened, I think it was Friday, the announcement started to come out, possibly even Saturday. My days get run together because of the fact that, like I said, it feels like a year of events occurs every single week. But it did come, President Trump did come out and say, hey, listen, like, because the Democrats are refusing to fund the TSA, I'm going to go ahead and push ICE into the airports. Well, that's fine and dandy. So now we're going to add more tension, more pressure, more violence, more a higher propensity for actions that are going to create unrest in our country. We're just going to add to that. We're going to pour gasoline on the flames, and we're going to do that because, well, America, fuck yeah, right? And so hey, ma'am, appreciate you jumping in. I apologize I didn't get you the link in time. And just for you to catch up, dude, I'm running solo today. So long story short, what I think about is when it comes to putting ICE in airports, I think that this is a tactic that is coming from the president in order to force or to push or to drive Democratic lawmakers to approve the funding bill for DHS in its entirety, because Democrats don't want ICE in our airports. Um, and so I think what's going on is that Democrats are actively are actively being engaged by the Trump administration, who's saying, all right, guess what? If you're not going to fund TSA, we're going to go ahead and put ICE, who is fully funded till 28, into TSA positions, and we're going to have them fulfill the role of transportation security of the can't speak today of the Transportation Security Administration. And so what I foresee happening is Democrats are going to see this occurring and they're going to say, no, we're not going to deal with this. And we will see very likely in the next week or so, I think that we will see a budget being passed for DHS in order to prevent the rise of violence that will occur when ICE does take over our airports. So that's where we're at there, and I do think that that's coming. If you are a traveler, if you're flying in the next week, what I would say is make sure that you arrive early. Make sure that you have all of your paperwork in line, and if you can avoid traveling for at least the next week or so. If you can't, just make sure that your stuff is in line. Make sure that everything is in order. Nick, Glad to see that you've joined us, man. So moving on to the next topic I wanted to cover is the news that we are sending, at a minimum, another 7,500 Marines and sailors into the Middle East. That doesn't include the Army, and I don't have numbers on the Army. I just have the Marines and sailors off the top of my head. But I do know that there are airborne elements preparing to deploy to the region as well. Um, Significance there is, I think that this is an effort to reopen the Straits of Hormuz. Right now, the president has routinely made these comments about, oh well, we don't really require the majority of our oil coming from the Straits of Hormuz, so it doesn't really affect us. Well, the reality is that 8% of the oil that is imported by the United States comes from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and the United Arab Emirates. All three of those countries require that oil tankers get pushed through the Straits of Hormuz, are filled inside the Gulf, and then have to transit the Strait of Hormuz out. Iran has essentially closed the Straits of Hormuz to any traffic that it is not authorizing, and has redirected Iranian friendly traffic through its own territorial waters in order to, I guess, protect it. And so, as a result, what we have is an essential blockade of that region, which is creating problems in the energy sector. But here's the other thing that isn't really well known or isn't really well thought out, is that it's not just the energy sector, right? Like a lot of our fertilizer, or the um, um, fertilizer bases, right? They all come from those countries. They come from the oil production process. And so, what's going on is that nations that are small in nature, like Taiwan, Thailand, um, are not getting, one, the fuel that they need, but they're also not getting the fertilizer that they need in order to sustain um, growth and crop yields. And while we may not see that hitting us initially, what we will see is there's going to be a drastic impact on the global food supply, and there's going to be a rise in prices in food. There's going to be a rise in prices in um, the just the ability to maintain a lifestyle. The United States is more insulated from those effects, but we are still part of the global economy, and so we're still going to have or feel those impacts. I mean, we're already feeling the impacts coming from the oil situation. Um, I think the last note I saw is that gas prices are up 70% from last year, and they're expected to go even higher. And I know in California, we're looking at or they are looking at prices of over $5 a gallon. Here in North Carolina, where gas is traditionally considered cheap, I've watched diesel prices shoot over $5 a gallon just for diesel, and I feel really bad for those diesel folks. Um, Granted, I personally drive an electric vehicle, and I drive an electric vehicle because I think that EVs are the future of transportation. Um, Less because I'm trying to save the planet, and more because, um, well, I like electric vehicles. There's something about the ability to press on the acceleration pedal and go, without having to wait for the engine to spool up and then launch you. I like that roller coaster feel where acceleration puts you into your seat. Um, but I digress. Um, the fact that gas is going up is going to impact Americans. The fact that or fertilizer base processes are being limited is going to impact Americans. We are going to feel this. And so, what I think that is going on is that the Marines and the sailors, the army going into the region, what we are going to see is that we could possibly see, and I made a bet with the president of 5051 veterans about whether or not we were going to put boots on the ground in Iran. And unfortunately, it looks like I'm going to lose this bet. Um, And Katie, if you're watching, hasn't happened yet. So don't come knocking and trying to collect. Um, and so what I foresee is that there could be limited incursion into Iran, specifically along the coastal regions surrounding the Straits of Hormuz. But also, I do foresee us putting boots on the ground in order to take Karg Island. Right now, that's separate from the boots on the ground in order to seize the nuclear fissile material that is located in the center of Iran. I think that that's going to happen too, because we're not just going to leave that there. Um, yep, ma'am, you did take the same bet. It looks like we're losing, man. Like that's Katie called this one. Um, so I think what we will see is limited incursion. I don't think it's going to be in Iraq. I don't think it's going to be an Iraq level event. I don't think that it's going to be an occupation. I don't think that we are going to go into this country and try to force a regime change in the same fashion that we did in Iraq and Afghanistan. I think that what we are going to do is we're going to go in order to ensure that the key locations are secured in order to maintain and ensure that the petrodollar remains strong, and in order to ensure that oil flows freely to the rest of the world. This is a rest of the world problem, though. The nation of Canada pulls 65% of its oil from Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. 65% of its oil imports come from that region. And so they're going to get hit hard too, which is why Donald Trump has come out and he has said, hey, I'm demanding that all these other nations send their ships down to secure the Strait of Hormuz because it's not our problem. Well, guess what? And this is for President Trump. Check it out, dude. Like, you can't pick a fight and then complain that your buddies that you have been calling morons and asshats and enemies are going to come to your defense. Period. Those allies, they came to our defense after September 11th because we got hit and we got our nose bloodied. And they came to us and they said, how can we help? They flew caps over our airspace. They provided military security, and they were there for us when we went into Afghanistan to take out Osama bin Laden. They were there for us when we escalated that action in order to topple the Taliban. They were there for us when we made the claim that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, which they didn't. And they remained with us in both of those conflicts for decades. We picked this fight with Iran. We chose to go to war with Iran. We chose to bomb Iran. We chose to do it without consulting our allies. We chose to do it without making any type of effort to say, hey, listen, we're going in here and we would like your help because they are a threat to the world. We just did it. And we did it with an ally who, guess what? Iraq and Afghanistan, do you know where Israel was not? Israel didn't send forces in. Israel didn't help us out. Israel wasn't there. Israel didn't fly cap over the United States of America. And yet we're going to war because Israel has decided that we need to go to war? No, fam. I'm not about it. Not about it. I get that there's tensions. I understand that. I get that the Supreme Ayatollah is a bad dude. 100%. I think he should have died, and I'm glad that he did die. But at the same time, there's a right and a wrong way of doing this. Over the week, we did see news coming out of the Pentagon that they're going to be requesting another 200, and Nick and Mayhem, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was $200 billion in military spending in order to support this operation. And interestingly enough, I saw a number of, you could call them MAGA Republicans like Lauren Boebert, who came out and said, absolutely not. We're not going to spend this kind of money because the president decided to pick a fight that he shouldn't have picked. And yeah, no, ma'am, you're right. They did have chemical weapons when they gassed the Kurds, um, but those here's the problem, right? So like we're conflating the timeline, right? The Iraq didn't gas the Kurds and then the United States went in and freed the Kurds, right? That's not how that process went. Iraq was gassing the Kurds, and then there was a United Nations resolution, and there were weapons inspectors that went in and they saw those weapons get dismantled. And then Saddam Hussein was like, "Yeah, you know what? I don't want these guys here anymore," and kicked them out of the country, which was and which led to the rise in tensions that allowed for us to go back in and make the justification that there were weapons of mass destruction in the country, right? So I'm not saying that Saddam Hussein was bad, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't have gotten removed, but let's also go ahead and remind ourselves who put the dude in charge: the United States, right? Who put the Ayatollah in charge? The Western nations. Who put the Shah, who preceded the Ayatollah, in charge? The Western nations. Who orchestrated a coup against their only democratically popularly elected president? The United States, under the CIA back in the 50s, right? So like if we're going to do this push and pull, right, we got to accept that there are things that we have done that has created situations and created the scenarios that has fostered the development of these individuals. We have repeatedly, over and over in American history, we have repeatedly put dictators in charge of these nations who will give us lip service about how they like the United States and how they're going to work for the United States, but then turn around and go against the United States and become bad actors, or turn around and turn against their people, turn around and leverage their power and their authority to infringe on the rights of their own people, to destroy human rights, to violate international law. They do that all the time. And they do it because the US and Western allies have put them in power and put them where they belong or where they are. And then later on down the road, we decide, oh, you know what, we don't like you, we're going to get rid of you. Creates power vacuum, which then leads to other things like the rise of ISIS, right? ISIS didn't just pop up out of the blue and nowhere, right? ISIS popped up because the United States and Western allies went in and created a power vacuum, both in Syria and in Iraq. And now we're doing the same thing in Iran. The Taliban didn't retake Afghanistan as quickly as they did because American might isn't what it is, right? The Taliban retook Afghanistan because of the fact that, well, Donald Trump 1.0 negotiated with the Taliban without the Afghan government being present. That's the reason that the Taliban took over as quickly as they did. And it wasn't a surprise. We knew that that was going to happen. We knew that that was going to happen the minute that we started trying to establish the new Afghanistan government. Period. And that's, I mean, at the end of the day, we just have to recognize that our efforts to nation build suck, right? And what we have to do is we have to, instead of going in and trying to take these people out, what we have to do is go in and say, hey, listen, opposition, because there is an opposition. I've talked to her on my show. 2 weeks ago, I had her on the live. She's a representative of the opposition for Iran. And they are ready. They're prepared. They've got everything set up. All they need is the conditions to be set. And you know what they're not asking for? They're not asking for American bombs. They're not asking for American troops on the ground. They're not asking for boots. What they're asking is that we stop playing this game where we are tacitly approving or quietly rejecting what they're doing, what the current regime is doing. And instead, we hold them accountable. Instead of saying, you know what, we're going to be passive about this, and we're going to say, no, we don't like what you're doing without actually doing anything about it. We continue to do the things that we're doing, right? Like, I can see airstrikes. Let's do airstrikes. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure that we are supporting the opposition. We have to let them do their thing. We've got to let them go in and take control. But more importantly, we have to we absolutely have to ensure that we are vetting these individuals and these organizations and these groups. Because what we don't want to do is throw support behind another authoritarian regime. Bear with me. I'm checking the TikToks just to verify and see if anyone has made any comments there, which I don't see, and checking on the Book of Faces as well. No comments there either. So looks like the only engagement I have is from Mayhem and Nick Hensley. So long story short, I think that what is going to occur is we're going to put boots on the ground in a limited fashion. I don't think we're going to go in and take that country the way that we did with Iraq and Afghanistan. I think that the TSA going to the airports is a negotiating tactic coming from Donald Trump in order to force the hand of the Democrats, in order to fund the DHS in its entirety, because, well, ICE is getting a paycheck. But at the same time, if it were up to me and if I were president for a day, I would be dissolving ICE. I would be putting forth a measure to Congress in order to get to doge ICE, right? Because ICE is a problem, not a solution. And so, as I said at the very beginning of this show, or this episode, it is absolutely important that you, the American people, do more than just ingest and observe and watch and be wallflowers when it comes to the media. Because when you watch CNN, when you watch Fox News, One American News, when you read the New York Times, when you read articles on Substack, when you watch Midas Touch News, when you watch Pod Save America, Pod Save the World, all of those other smaller organizations, when you watch their stories, you're going to get bias. And so what I would say is, instead of saying, oh, I've got a good balance of information coming from the fact that I watch all of these different sources, stop watching them. Stop watching me for your news, right? If you're going to watch me, I would prefer that you come on the show and watch in order to engage on the facts, right? Because I like it when I have people like Mayhem and Nick who are jumping in the comments and making statements so that I can interact with that, because that's what I want to do. I want to actually have an open line of communication. If I knew how to take calls, I would absolutely set it up so that I could take calls on the show every single week. And perhaps someone out there knows how to do it, and you can get with me, Carl at crayonboxpolitics.com. Shoot me an email and let's talk. But it's important that you go to the source. Go to congress.gov, pull the data. Eventually, I'll be directing you to the archivist, because the archivist will be there in order to provide you with that raw information, but in a manner that's a lot easier to digest and a lot easier to locate and search through. Read the daily digests. Read the congressional records every single day if you have a time. Watch the videos that are coming off the floor of the House and the Senate. Watch the videos that are coming out of our committee hearings that are occurring. Read the rules that are getting proposed by the disparate organizations that make up the executive branch. Read and listen to the rulings and the debates that are occurring at the Supreme Court. Because when you do that, you're going to be getting the information in its raw form, and you're going to be getting the information from the horse's mouth. And that's going to allow you to actually have the base knowledge that will allow you to formulate your opinion without formulating your opinion off of someone else's opinion. So stop playing telephone and just pick up the phone and listen to what is being said directly. Um, but that's all I got for today. Mayhem Nick, thank you for tuning in and jumping in. To all those who are currently tuned in on TikTok, thank you again for showing up. But please don't be afraid to jump in and comment. Don't be afraid to click like. If you liked what I had to say today, if you want to continue to hear me run my suck, please hit that subscribe button. Doesn't matter what you're on, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, hit the subscribe button so that you can always get notified when I go live. These live shows are every Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can also catch me on the 5051 Smoke Pit, which is a live show that encompasses veterans sitting around and talking about the issues. So those go every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time live. I am excited to announce that Crayon Box Politics is partnering with 5051 veterans and will be providing production support to the Smoke Pit in order to ensure that they have the ability to go live without having to incur the overhead that comes with it. So be leveraging CBP's assets in order to assist 5051 in their endeavor to spread the word about what veterans think about the issues and what's going on in the world. So with that being said, next recorded show is going to be getting recorded on Tuesday and should be out on Friday. I'll be sitting down with a former Trump attorney. So look out for that one. I'll have that published on Friday. And we will not be live on Sunday of next week just because I will be attending the 5051 No Kings protest event that is occurring in Fayetteville. If you are looking to get involved and want to be a part of a protest, by all means, I will drop the link in the comments here later on so that you can see it. And I'll make sure that you have the ability to go find it. Mayhem, if I remember right, it is, you can just Google it. Just Google No Kings 3 and you'll get a map of all the different locations where they are. Go join it. And if you're not someone who likes to protest, you don't have to protest, but go talk to the people that are there and allow them to let you know why they're there and what they stand for. So I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you for tuning in, and that's all I got.